The sun had just begun to set over the small, secluded town of Green Hollow. The streets were quiet, bathed in the long, distorted shadows of the fading day. In the midst of this sleepy town, a mystery was unfolding, one that would soon turn everything upside down. Lena Walker had just returned to Green Hollow after a decade of living in the city. Her father's sudden and unexpected death had brought her back to the place she had long tried to forget. Now, with the old house and his estate in her name, Lena had no choice but to confront the ghosts of her past. The house stood at the end of a winding road, surrounded by thick woods that loomed over it. It was an old colonial mansion, full of secrets and memories she had tried to bury. She had always hated the place. Even as a child, something about it felt wrong, like the walls were hiding things, and the rooms breathed with a life of their own. The light from the setting sun barely touched it. The trees seemed to swallow it whole. No matter how bright the day was, there was always a lingering shadow that clung to the house, and to Lena. The first few nights were uneventful. Lena, still overwhelmed with the weight of her father's passing, busied herself with clearing out his belongings. Each corner of the house brought back fragments of her childhood, good and bad, but there was something else, a creeping sensation of being watched, as if the house itself was aware of her presence. It wasn't long before strange things started happening. At first, it was subtle, a flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye, soft footsteps echoing in the empty hallways late at night. Lena dismissed it, blaming the old creaky house and her overactive imagination. But then the letters started arriving. They were always unsigned, cryptic and unnerving. "You cannot escape the past," one read. "The light only reveals what's hiding in the shade," said another. They appeared in places they shouldn't have: under her pillow, on the kitchen counter, inside her locked desk drawer. Each letter pushed Lena further into a pit of unease. Someone was watching her, playing with her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was leaving these messages wasn't entirely human. One evening, as she cleaned out her father's old study, she found a hidden compartment beneath his desk. Inside was a weathered, leather-bound journal, filled with his handwriting. As she flipped through the pages, Lena felt a chill. Her father had been writing about something dark, something he called the shade. The journal spoke of a presence that had been haunting their family for generations, a shadowy figure that seemed to follow them wherever they went. Her father believed it was tied to an ancient curse, something passed down through their bloodline. He had spent years trying to understand it, to find a way to protect them all from the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of sight. But it was the final entry that truly terrified Lena. Her father had written that the shade had come for him, and that Lena was next. The last words were hastily scrawled: "Trust no one." Even the light lies. That night, the strange occurrences escalated. Lena could feel it, the heavy presence in the air, a coldness that seeped through the walls, and then she saw it. A shadow, standing at the end of the hallway, barely visible in the dim light. It was tall and formless, shifting like smoke. She blinked, and it was gone, but she knew she hadn't imagined it. As the days went on, the figure appeared more often, always at the edge of her vision, always watching. The letters continued, each one more disturbing than the last. Lena's sleep became restless, her dreams plagued by dark figures and voices calling her name. The house, once merely unsettling, now felt suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in on her. Then came the night that changed everything. Lena had been sitting in her father's study, trying to decipher his journal, when the power suddenly went out. The house plunged into darkness. Her heart raced as she fumbled for a flashlight. The silence was thick, almost tangible, but there, in the darkness, she heard it, a soft whisper, her name, spoken from somewhere deep within the house. Gripping the flashlight, Lena cautiously made her way through the house, her pulse pounding in her ears. The light from the flashlight flickered as she moved down the hallway. And then, she saw it, the figure, standing at the far end, more solid than ever before. It was tall, humanoid, but its face was nothing more than a dark void. Lena froze, her breath caught in her throat. The figure didn't move. Instead, a voice soft and hollow echoed from it. "Lena," it whispered, "you cannot hide." Panic surged through her as she backed away, retreating to the study. She slammed the door behind her, her hands shaking. She remembered her father's journal, the mention of a mirror. He had written that the mirror was the key to revealing the truth about the shade. But the last page with the final instructions had been torn out. Desperate, Lena searched the house until she found the mirror, an old, ornate piece wrapped in cloth and tucked away in the attic. She brought it down, holding it in front of her, unsure of what to expect. As she held up the mirror, the light flickered again. The shadow in the hallway was no longer distant. It was right behind her, its form distorted, but unmistakable. Heart pounding, Lena spun around, raising the mirror between herself and the creature. The figure seemed to react, its form flickering and shifting in the reflection. But something was different. The reflection in the mirror wasn't just a shadow. Slowly, it began to change. The figure took on a more defined shape, a woman, her features becoming clearer. Lena's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the face. It was someone she had only seen in old family photographs. Her grandmother, a woman who had died long before Lena was born. "No," Lena whispered, her voice trembling. The figure, now fully formed in the reflection, spoke, her voice soft but tinged with sorrow. "You must listen." Lena's mind spun in confusion. You're the shade." "In a way," her grandmother replied, her reflection shimmering. "I am what remains of it. Our family has been cursed 4 generations, Lena, but the shade is not what you think. It is not here to harm you. It's a warning." "A warning about what?" Lena asked, her voice shaking. "About the future," her grandmother said, her reflection growing darker, her form blending with the shadow once more. "Our family once guarded something powerful, an artifact that should never have seen the light of day. But someone betrayed us long ago, and the curse was born from that betrayal. The shade is part of that curse, passed down through our bloodline." Lena's heart pounded in her chest. "But why now? Why me?" "Because time is running out," her grandmother whispered. "The secret our family has kept for centuries is about to be uncovered. If it falls into the wrong hands, it will unleash a darkness far worse than the shade. I came to warn you, Lena. You're the last one who can stop this." Lena's pulse quickened. "How? What am I supposed to do?" Her grandmother's reflection flickered, her form nearly gone. "You must follow the clues. Go back to the beginning, to the place where it all started. The mirror will guide you. It will show you what you need to see. But be careful, Lena. Not everything is as it seems." The figure faded completely, leaving Lena alone in the dimly lit hallway, the mirror heavy in her trembling hands. In the days that followed, Lena dove deep into her family's history, piecing together the fragments of old journals, letters, and town records. She discovered that the Walker family had once been part of a secret society, entrusted with guarding an ancient artifact, an object said to have the power to manipulate time and reality. It was this artifact that had brought the curse upon her family, and now someone was searching for it. The truth hit her like a freight train. The letters, the shade, the whispers in the night, they were all warnings. Warnings that someone was close to finding the artifact. And if they did, it would unleash untold chaos. Lena knew what she had to do. She packed her things, taking the mirror with her, and set out to follow the clues her grandmother had left behind. But as she left the house, the shadow followed. It was no longer a figure of fear, but a guide, always lingering just at the edge of her sight. The past and future were colliding, and Lena stood in the middle of it all. The light was no longer a comfort, for within it, the shade revealed the darkness to come, and only Lena could stop it.